What if I told you that the most powerful weapon in psychological warfare isn't a threat? It's not anger, it's not even action, it's silence. No shouting, no arguing, no confrontation, just pure, calculated silence. People don't fear silence, they fear themselves. In every conversation, every negotiation, every confrontation, there's always a battle for control. And the less you speak, the more control you have. Why? Because words expose. They reveal emotions, intentions, and weaknesses. But silence creates uncertainty. It forces the other person to react. It makes them uncomfortable, vulnerable, and desperate for reassurance. Silence creates fear, doubt, psychological control. People hate a vacuum. The moment there's silence, they rush to fill it with explanations, justifications, even confessions. That's why silence, when used correctly, is one of the greatest tools of psychological dominance. It's used in high-stakes negotiations, military interrogations, power plays, and social manipulation. Think about the most dominant people in the world. Business leaders, politicians, high-status personalities. They don't rush to speak. They don't fill the air with empty words. Instead, they pause. They let silence do the work. And in doing so, they make others chase their approval. Interrogators use silence to break people mentally. Under pressure, most will say anything to escape the void, even if it means exposing their weaknesses. In negotiation, words are liabilities. The less you say, the more they give away. And social manipulators? They use silence to force people to seek their validation, to second-guess their own words, their own actions, their own choices. The ultimate power move? Control, without words. If you can master the art of silence, you can dominate any social situation. You can make people feel uneasy, force them to justify themselves, and make them work for your attention, all without lifting a finger. But silence is not just about withholding words. It's about using it as a calculated weapon. Let's begin. 1. The silence trap. Why people can't handle it. Silence isn't empty. It's a battlefield. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, was known for never rushing to respond when challenged. He would simply look at his opponent, say nothing, and let them destroy their own argument. Most people fear silence more than they fear confrontation, because confrontation gives them something to react to, something to fight against. But silence? Silence forces them to face something far worse, their own thoughts. Have you ever been in a conversation that suddenly went silent? What happened? Did you feel the urge to say something, anything, just to break the tension? Most people do, because silence strips away distractions and forces them to fill the void. And in that moment, their mind starts working against them. They start second-guessing, overthinking, seeking reassurance. They wonder, did I say something wrong? Why aren't they responding? What are they thinking? And the longer the silence drags on, the more uncomfortable they become. Psychologists once conducted an experiment. 2 strangers, 1 silent room. Seconds in, nervous glances. 2 minutes, sweating. 5 minutes, psychological collapse. Why? Because silence isn't just awkward, it's exposing. It forces people to sit with their own thoughts, their own doubts, their own insecurities, and when that silence is intentional, it becomes a weapon, because uncertainty breeds fear. When people feel uncertain, they scramble to regain control. They over-explain. They make emotional mistakes. They reveal things they never intended to share. And that is exactly why silence is used at the highest levels of power, control, and influence. The best interrogators don't hammer suspects with endless questions. They do the opposite. They ask one hard question, and then they say nothing. No reassurance, no reaction, just silence. And under that pressure, most people break. They start explaining themselves, filling the void with unnecessary details, details that expose their contradictions, their insecurities, their lies. In high-stakes business deals, silence is a game changer. The smartest negotiators don't rush to justify their offer. They make their proposal, and then they go silent. And what happens? The other side panics. They start negotiating against themselves, offering more, revealing their desperation, folding completely. Even in everyday interactions, silence is a power move. The person who speaks less always seems more confident, more in control, because their silence forces others to seek their approval, to second-guess their own words, to chase their validation. You want to see how powerful silence really is? Try this. Next time someone asks you a question, don't answer immediately. Wait 3 full seconds. Watch what happens. Most people will shift in their seat, avoid eye contact, get visibly uncomfortable. Some will even start talking again, just to fill the silence. And once you see it work, you'll realize the truth. The longer you control the silence, the more power you have. You've seen how silence makes people uneasy. But what if you could take it a step further, not just using silence to create discomfort, but using it to take control? That's where real power begins. Now, let's break down how strategic silence can shift the balance of power in any situation. 2. The power of strategic pauses. In any power dynamic, the person who talks the most loses the most. Talking too much isn't just a habit, it's a weakness. Why? Because every extra word you speak reveals something about you, your emotions, your thoughts, your fears. Steve Jobs was famous for his long pauses during presentations. He didn't just speak. He made people hang on to every single word. Think about the last time you saw someone trying to prove themselves. They talked and talked and talked. And with every extra word, they became weaker, more desperate, more exposed. Meanwhile, the person who said little, they controlled the conversation. They made others lean in. They forced people to seek their approval. Verbal overexposure makes you predictable. It gives people too much insight into your emotions, and most importantly, it hands over control. Most people answer immediately. They rush to fill silence. They try to be quick, responsive, engaged. But high-status individuals, they pause. Because a pause creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people second-guess themselves. Imagine this. Someone asks you a direct question. Instead of answering immediately, you pause. You hold eye contact. You let the silence settle. Watch what happens. They shift. They look away. They start to doubt their own words. Why? Because they're now trapped in the unknown, waiting for your reaction. The most powerful executives don't rush their words. They speak deliberately. They pause. They make every sentence feel calculated. And when they pause mid-sentence, people wait. They anticipate. They crave the next word. In high-stakes deals, the best negotiators don't fill the air with words. They present their offer, and then they go silent. And what happens? The other side panics. They start justifying. They negotiate against themselves, revealing their weaknesses. In war rooms and interrogations, silence isn't just a tactic. It's a tool of psychological warfare. By pausing before responding, leaders make their words feel more weighted, more decisive, more powerful. Here's how you make silence work for you immediately. In your next conversation, Pause for 2 seconds before answering any question. In high-pressure moments, slow down your speech and insert strategic pauses between key points. Observe how people react. Watch how they start leaning in, anticipating, waiting for your next move. Try this today. The next time someone asks you a question, count to 3 before answering. Watch their reaction. See how they shift, fidget, or rush to fill the silence. You now understand the power of silence. But what happens when you use it to control the entire room? Now let's take silence to the next level, where it becomes a weapon of control. 3. Control through silent dominance. The most powerful person in any room is not the one who talks the most. It's the one who makes others seek their approval. The loudest voice is rarely the strongest. True dominance isn't about making noise. It's about making people feel your presence without saying a word. When someone speaks too much, they reveal too much. They explain, they justify, they overexpose their thoughts. But the one who stays silent, they hold the real power. Because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates control. Look at the highest status individuals in any setting. They aren't the ones talking the most. They're the ones watching, listening, observing. Julius Caesar understood this well. Before launching his most decisive attacks, he wouldn't respond to provocations. He would remain silent, letting the enemy overthink, letting their doubts eat them alive. Napoleon Bonaparte used silence as a strategy in war councils. He would listen to all opinions, never reacting immediately. His generals would grow anxious, revealing their true thoughts and fears, without him saying a word. The most dangerous leader isn't the one who talks the most. It's the one who lets silence do the damage. When you speak too much, you dilute your power. But when you hold back, your words become rare, valuable, commanding. Picture a high-level CEO walking into a boardroom. They don't rush to speak. They sit, they watch. They let others scramble for attention. And then, when they finally speak, everyone listens. Humans hate uncertainty. They crave responses, reactions, affirmation. But silence forces them into discomfort. It makes them question themselves. When you delay your response, they start explaining themselves more. When you stay silent, they feel the need to prove themselves to you. When you don't react emotionally, they adjust their behavior just to get a sign from you. Ever seen someone tell a joke in a group? If everyone laughs except one person, what happens? They start looking at them, searching for approval. They start second-guessing. They start feeling exposed. That's the power of silence. It makes people chase your validation, even when you give them nothing. The person who speaks first in any situation loses the most. In negotiations, in confrontations, in power plays, the first to speak often gives away their position, their emotions, their leverage. Next time you walk into a room, a meeting, or a conversation, don't speak first. Wait. Observe. Let others reveal themselves first. And when you do speak, do it with full control. In social settings, the most magnetic individuals don't chase attention. They make others come to them. In business, the strongest leaders don't rush to give orders. They wait. They let others present ideas. And when they finally speak, their words carry authority. In relationships, the most desired people don't seek validation. Instead, others crave their attention because their silence creates mystery, and mystery creates desire. Try this today. In your next conversation, say less than usual. Observe more. Let others do the talking. When someone asks you a question, pause before answering. Make them wait. Hold back your emotions. Instead of reacting instantly, stay unreadable. See how people adjust to you. Test this in your next meeting, social setting, or negotiation. Say nothing for the first 5 minutes. Just observe. You'll notice something. People will start turning toward you, seeking your approval without even realizing it. You've seen how silence makes people chase you, but what happens when someone tries to challenge your silence? Because the moment you master silence, you'll encounter those who can't stand it, and that's when you turn silence into a weapon. 4. Turning silence into a psychological attack. Silence isn't just a shield. When used correctly, it's a psychological weapon. Most people think of silence as a defensive tool, something you use to avoid conflict, to stay calm, to protect your energy. But silence can be more than that. It can be turned into a weapon, a psychological attack that forces people to chase, doubt, and break under pressure. There's a difference between using silence to protect yourself and using it to control others. Defensive silence is about staying unreadable, using silence to avoid unnecessary engagement. Offensive silence is about creating discomfort, using silence to trigger doubt, insecurity, and obsession. The silent treatment is emotional withdrawal, often used in toxic relationships. It's reactionary, it's emotional. But true psychological silence is calculated, it's controlled. It doesn't just punish, it forces the other person to react in ways they don't even understand. The human brain is wired to seek closure. When someone ignores us, it creates a mental loop, an unresolved question that keeps repeating. And when that silence is unexpected, it becomes unbearable. People hate uncertainty. When they don't know where they stand, they start chasing answers. A lack of response makes people crave attention more than they would have if you had responded. When someone expects a reaction and gets nothing, they start overanalyzing, filling the silence with their own fears and insecurities. Master manipulators don't argue, they don't explain, they let silence do the damage for them. They create distance, forcing the other person to feel abandoned without ever saying a word. They use selective absence, making their attention feel rare and valuable, so that when they return, it feels like a reward. Disappearing at the right moment is more powerful than any words you could say. Stop responding at peak moments. When they expect engagement, remove yourself. Create an emotional vacuum. Leave gaps in communication that force them to wonder what happened. Return unpredictably. Don't give them the satisfaction of knowing when you'll be available again. Want to make someone chase your attention? Try this. Pull back unexpectedly. When they expect you to be available, disappear instead. Stay silent longer than feels natural. Watch how they start to reach out more. Return with detachment. Act like nothing happened. Let them feel the imbalance. Silence doesn't just make people uncomfortable, it makes them obsess over you. But what happens when silence is used against you? Because the moment you start using silence strategically, you'll encounter those who try to use it against you, and that's where the real test begins. 5. How to resist silent warfare. The first thing you need to understand, it's not their silence that hurts you, it's how you react to it. Silence is a weapon, but what happens when it's used against you? Most people can dish it out, but they can't take it. They can ignore others, but the moment someone ignores them, they break. This is the real test of control. Can you remain unaffected when someone tries to use silence against you? When someone uses silence as a psychological tool, their goal is simple: to make you react. They want to create doubt, force you into discomfort, and push you into breaking first. They want you to second-guess yourself, to chase after them, to show emotional weakness. They want you to overcompensate, to fill the void with words, to seek their validation. And the moment you react, you've already lost. The strongest people don't react to silence, they embrace it. They understand one thing: power isn't in who speaks the most, but in who controls the tension. If they ignore you, let them. Show zero concern. If they withdraw attention, match their energy with detachment. If they try to manipulate through silence, turn it back on them. Make them feel your absence instead. Look at the most powerful figures: CEOs, military leaders, dominant personalities. They don't beg for attention. They don't chase after approval. They don't let silence intimidate them, because they know when you stop needing noise, you gain complete control. In military training, silence is a tool used to break weak minds. The strongest soldiers, they sit in silence for hours, showing no reaction, no discomfort, no need to fill the void. Because the moment you become dependent on engagement, you become weak. The second you crave a response, you lose power. Want to train yourself to resist silent warfare? Try this. The next time someone ignores you, say nothing. Feel the discomfort, but don't act on it. If someone withdraws attention, match their silence instead of reacting. Observe how long it takes before they break, and realize that you were always in control. If someone is trying to manipulate you with silence, do this. Don't text back. Don't acknowledge it. And when you see them again, act like nothing ever happened. Now let's put everything together and make you untouchable. 6th final strategy: becoming a master of silence. Now you understand the power of silence. You've seen how it can break people, make them chase you, force them to reveal their weaknesses, and shift the balance of power in any situation. A master of silence doesn't just use it occasionally, they live by it. They know when to speak, when to pause, when to hold back, and when to let silence do all the talking. In social situations, they never rush to fill the void. They make people crave their attention. In negotiations, they let the other side over-explain, second-guess, and expose their weaknesses first. In relationships, they don't beg for validation. They stay calm, composed, and let others feel their absence. Silence isn't passive, it's a statement. Every pause you take, every moment of stillness, every time you hold back words, you're forcing the other person to react. And the one who reacts first is the one who loses control. Look at the most powerful figures in history, the most respected leaders, the most dominant individuals. They don't waste words. They don't seek validation. They don't talk just to talk. Instead, they let their silence command respect. Silence is a mirror. It forces people to face themselves. Master it, and you'll control every interaction, every negotiation, every relationship. Because in the end, the most powerful weapon is saying nothing at all. Master this, and you won't just control conversations, you'll control people. The only question is, when will you start? Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever used silence as a power move? What happened? Drop your experience in the comments below. I read every comment, and your insight might just be the key someone else needs to take control. If this video gave you an edge, hit like and subscribe for more strategies on psychological dominance. Most people crave control. Few ever master it. The ones who do, they dominate. So, will you? In a world where everyone fights to be heard, the one who masters silence controls everything.